authors, and welcome back to So God Told You to Write a Book, Now What? I'm your host, Wendy Jo Cerna, and I am excited to venture into the second season of the podcast. In Season 1, I took you along with me through the process of writing, editing, and publishing my third novel, Solbakken, A Tale of Generations. I'm currently in the thick of getting my fourth novel, The Sabotage Scroll, finished up and published. But enough about me. Season 2 is going to be all about my fellow Christian authors who are launching their books. So hop on board for Season 2 of So God Told You to Write a Book, Now What? I'm convinced you're going to find both inspiration and practical knowledge to help you obey the call of God on your life to create the book He has given you to create. Hey, if the author and finisher of all things told you to write a book, He believes that you can. And so do I. So come on, let's write. Hello, authors, and welcome back to So God Told You to Write a Book, Now What? We are in episode 8 of Season 2, and I have with me a brand new friend, Heidi Gray McGill. Welcome to the show, Heidi.
Thank you, Wendy Jo. I am so excited to be here and have a talk with your listeners.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. We know each other not at all.
Exactly. I know.
So
Connection is great in the family of God.
Yes, it absolutely is. And I was referred to you by Ann Harrison.
Yes.
And how do you know Ann?
Same thing. It is just the family of God. We connected through Facebook, and we both have blindness as an issue. And I just learned that she has an amazing heart for Jesus. And
Yes,
so
she
we
does.
have become fast friends. And she's an exceptional editor, by the way.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yes,
I've not used her in that
Yes.
capacity, but yeah, she's wonderful. We had a great chat. I really enjoyed it. She interviewed me on a podcast she had a few years back, and so that's how we connected. So I love that. All right. So today we're going to talk about, I looked at your website. You have how many books that you've already?
I think I have 10.
Yeah. And some are novels and some are novellas.
Yes.
And we'll talk about the difference there a little bit. But the current one that is coming out this month, November, is actually a Christmas novella called A Place to Belong.
Yes.
And it is part of your Discerning God's Best series.
Yes.
Yes, and I got to read it and thoroughly enjoyed it.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, tell us just a little synopsis about A Place to Belong.
I will. Let me start by saying the Discerning God's Best series has 6 full novels in it. And so in one of those books, which was book number 4, Healing of the Heart, there's a side character. Her name is Josephine. And by the time I was done with book 4, I knew that that child had a story to tell. I just wasn't exactly sure what it was. And when I realized I was ready to squeeze in another book this year, I thought, it's Josephine's story I needed to tell, and pulled out the little bit of the mystery that we don't know about and wrote that book of what it was that she was going through. And that was an unplanned pregnancy outside of marriage. And the most important thing I want a reader to learn is, first of all, we've all made mistakes. God not only forgives us, but He still has a plan and a purpose for us, even if we can't see it. And sometimes when we spend time with brothers and sisters in Christ, we recognize that they are the ones that are going to help us get where we need to go. And that's where this book takes us, is there are some other people in this fictional town of Shumard Oak Bend that then help Josephine decide and learn what it is that she is not only capable of doing, but what God has already prepared her for.
Right. And it's a historical novel as well. It's set in what is the era it's set in?
Yeah, it's right after the Civil War. So in 1870s. In fact, one of the main characters is Jeremiah Remington, and he is a product of the Civil War. He's missing an arm, and he is also going through his own journey of healing. And so it was a fun book to write.
Yeah, it's very sweet, but it's also very real in the stuff that we face after we've made difficult decisions in our lives, and where do we run, and how do we experience God in those moments. So I love that it came from out of your other books.
Yes.
I have three books now that are connected to one small town, and I wrote one of them not knowing that I was ever going to write about that town again. But then those
Yeah,
characters,
yeah.
they just won't leave you alone, right?
Right.
They come back talking to you. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
But this book, you said it only took you about 4 months to complete the whole thing.
Right. Right. So tell me, I have a question for you since
Yeah.
you've read the book. Did you feel like the book was truly a standalone and it gave you enough insight to say, oh, I think I might want to get to know these characters in the other books?
Yeah, definitely. I recognize that Schumard, oh, what do you call it? What's the name of the
Shumardo
town?
Bend. Yeah.
Schumard Oakbend, sorry. I've read it honestly, but that it is its own world, and that
Yes.
there's much more to some of these characters that I recognized. I don't know their stories. Yeah, but it
Yeah.
was standalone enough that I understood, pretty much where
Thank
Josephine was
you.
coming
That's an
from. And
excellent thing for an author to know. Thank you.
yeah, yeah, that I could pick it up and read it, enjoy it just in and of itself. But I am curious
Mhm.
about that. I'll go back and find some of those other characters. Like, what is that connection with, was it Teddy and, yeah, some of those
Yes.
others. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. Definitely. So that's a fun
Okay.
thing to go.
Good.
And you kind of hope that when you write, the third or fourth or fifth, that people will go back and go, how did we get here anyway?
Right.
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of start in the middle of my questions with you because
Okay.
I recognize that you and I have a little bit in common, that you didn't come to being an author until fairly recently. Tell me about that.
Yes. So when I started writing, it was 2020. It was during our pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
and my whole purpose was to be obedient.
Mm.
So let me just share, Wendy Joe, what
Yeah.
God was doing in my heart. So
Yep.
my career has been human resources, fundraising. I've worked for churches and Christian schools, Clemson University, the American Red Cross, and that's just been what I have always done. And when I had children, I decided staying at home was the gift that God was giving me and my husband was giving me.
Yep.
And so I did that. And then I decided to go back, but I worked as a volunteer. I created and founded a director of an English as a second language program.
Mm-hmm.
And that ESL program reached 120 individuals, and it became my platform to share Jesus. So,
Mm.
just so you know a little bit about me,
Yeah.
if you and I are sitting next to each other in an airplane and you start asking me questions of faith, I struggled desperately, Wendy Joe, to share my heart.
Yeah.
I can show you Jesus, and when we are friends for a while, there is no question that we have something together when it comes to Christ. But verbally trying to get that out is really tough.
Mm-hmm.
But I have learned that if I can write it, if I can have enough time to process it, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe not throw it at you, but to write it through the character so that there's a storyline and you see a progression of faith happen, that's how I can share my faith.
Yep.
And so I had been a beta reader. Now, a beta reader is someone who, when an author has their book and it's been through an editor and you think all your things are fixed, there are no more edits that need to be made, you send it to a beta reader and a beta reader then reads it and finds all the things
Yeah.
the errors that you made when you were
Right.
making the
Yep.
edits. And they are a blessing. And I had been a beta reader and I thought,
Okay.
I could write a book. How hard could this be? And of course, all authors laugh and say it's really hard.
Yeah.
So I thought I can do this. And when COVID hit and I needed to close that ESL program and retire, I thought I have no excuse. I
Mm.
need to just do it. So I wrote this story and I published it in November of 2020 that year. I just truly gave those 8+ hours a day to
Wow.
writing and learned so many things along the way, including things that probably most authors will want to avoid. And
Right.
so I'd love to share a little bit of those. But
Yes,
that's how I
absolutely.
got where I am.
Oh, so you just jumped right in,
I
8 hours
did.
a day. You treated
I
it
did.
like a job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you have any background in writing?
Oh no, I barely passed college English.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. I love that.
No, this is when oh, what Grammarly is really helpful. But the
Uh-huh.
truth is, it was friends and family who walked beside me. They knew my heart. They
Hmm.
knew that I wanted to do this as a mission, as a ministry, that I needed to share Christ. And when someone wants so desperately to succeed, people do come around you and support you, and they're your Aaron and they hold your arms up. And when I was failing and flailing, they were there. And I especially have a girlfriend, Stephanie,
Hmm.
and she spent countless hours reading my books and giving me suggestions. My sister, Debra, truly probably spent 2 to 3 hours every day just helping me as we would banter back and forth and decide, is this realistic? Would this really be able to happen? Is this plausible? And those kind of things were just absolutely invaluable.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you had to do some research. I mean, most of your books are set, are historical. You have a couple of
Yes.
contemporary ones I see, but you
Yes.
have to do research then too, because you didn't live in the
Absolutely, I do
1870s.
have to do research. Whoever they are, says, write what you know. And I had been a historical reader for a long time. Christian historical fiction has always been my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So I understood what things would happen. I didn't take them on a wagon train, so I didn't have to get super detailed about that. I
Yeah.
got them there. They started, they had a place to live. This is what, and I, in there, so there are some things that you just innately know because you've spent so much time in that
Yeah.
genre. Other things I made up.
Hmm.
And this is where the internet was very helpful in telling me what would the weather be like, what would the ground be like, what plants would you plant, crops would you plant, what time are the leaves going to change, what trees. That's how
Mm-hmm.
Shumard Oak Bend came to be. What trees are there in this area? What do they look like? What do the leaves sound like when they fall? The internet is extremely helpful for that kind of
Yes.
information. And so that kind of research was helpful. I have actually never been to this area of Missouri in where the Ozarks are. I
Mm-hmm.
would love to go someday. It is near what is now considered Poplar Bluff. And at one point, book four, I needed to do a tremendous amount of research because I needed to get my character from Philadelphia, from the university, back to Poplar Bluff. And I had to make sure that a railroad system was in
Yeah.
place and
Right.
where it needed to be as authentic as possible. And so that was actually fascinating. I have a little side story on that one is when I contacted the Library of Congress, of course, they are all over helping you find information. Well, we found, or I should say, they found they were missing some documentation. And I'm
Hmm.
telling you, you would have thought I was royalty. Those people, they assigned three individuals to me to find this one piece of information that is just like a little tiny blip in my book, but
Hmm.
it's authentic. And
Yeah.
they assigned these people to me and they did research and they realized their microfiche had been labeled and filed incorrectly.
Hmm.
So they found some of the information. They're still missing an entire year's worth of data and information and maps
Oh my
that they
goodness.
can't locate. Yes, well, at least at that time, they may have found
Yeah.
it by now, but there's so much help available to you. So if you're willing, you just
Yep.
have to take the time to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really fun. So you've never been to Missouri, but you
I have
write.
not.
Well, you
Well,
have
I've
a good
been to
excuse to
Missouri.
come.
I went to Branson to go to see
Okay.
the Sights
Okay.
and Sounds Theater. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was fabulous.
But you live in the South. You live in South Carolina.
I am in South Carolina. I'm just below the North Carolina border. I'm like 2 hours from the ocean and 2 hours from the mountains. I'm in the sweet spot of South Carolina.
Beautiful. Is that born and raised or are you
No,
a
Ohio
transplant?
is my home.
Okay.
My daddy was a pastor, so I've lived in Michigan and Maine, North Carolina, South Carolina. And I went back to college in Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you've never been out here to the West
I
Coast.
know. Well, with Red Cross, I was out in
Okay.
Seattle during a would have been an earthquake. So
Yeah, we have those. Yeah. We
yes.
we don't have hurricanes or
Yeah.
tornadoes, but earthquakes we do have. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you started this in 2020. You crank out a book in 1 year. How
Yeah.
did you get like the confidence in your writing skills? Did you have some tools? Did you go to conferences? I mean, there weren't any conferences open, but you could do online things. How did you get your writing skills up to snuff?
Okay. This is a great question. Some of it is absolute necessity, and that I had a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if we do not know our why of why we are doing this, we will quit.
Hmm.
This, you do not do this to make money. You do
Yeah,
not do this to make a name for yourself.
right.
You do this for a reason. And my reason is that I must have a platform to share Jesus Christ. And I know myself well enough that I'm not going to go and sit next to somebody and just give them a track and start talking.
Right.
That is just not me.
Yeah.
And I have to do this. It's part of my calling. The Great Commission is part of what God has
Mm-hmm.
called me to do. And so I feel it's not an obligation. It's a privilege to be able to do
Mm.
this. So some of it is that if you have an early copy of my book, you will say, oh, that's a great story. And boy, does she need some help. I think I had 12 points of view and I had so much head hopping on, which means you can
Right.
see what the other character is thinking. You were dizzy by the time you were done. But the story was so real. The story
Mm-hmm.
was so raw. And the story was so genuinely, purposefully made to draw someone to Christ that many people overlooked that. And I had the absolute sweetest things happen to me. I had 3 reviews that were 3-star reviews that came back and they said, first of all, this is a great story. This story shares the gospel of Jesus Christ very clearly. This author definitely has something to say, but, and all 3 of them gave me 3 comments of what was wrong with my book.
Hmm.
And because they had approached me in love, these are
Yep.
total strangers on Amazon.
Yeah.
Because they had approached me in love and they had and said something positive first and then given me what I would honestly say is constructive feedback,
Mm-hmm.
I said, you know what? They are right. And I went and I started doing some serious research on
Mm.
how to write, that craft of writing. And
Yes.
I went back and I edited that book. And so I changed less than 10%, which Amazon will allow you to do that, change your book around.
Mm-hmm.
So I changed less than
Mm-hmm.
10%, but now I have far fewer points of view, no more head hopping. It's a much more well-written book, but boy, can you see a difference in my writing from book 1 to book 6.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I say too, is that if I went back and wrote my first book now, it would be the same
Oh,
story, but it would
yes.
be a different book. But it
Yeah.
was the best I could do with what I
Mhm.
had back then. And thank God for editors who really,
Yeah.
moved me in different directions that it definitely needed to be moved.
Yeah.
But, you're in the process of learning and you have to be willing to
Hmm.
just be a student and learn
Yeah.
again. So
Yeah.
you mentioned that you had some books that you used to help you in that craft. Can you tell
I
us
I
what
do.
they
I
are?
have some great ones. So this first one is how not to write a novel.
Ah,
I found this book to be extremely helpful because I was doing all the wrong things. And so
hmm,
this helped change my mindset of what I
yeah.
needed to do.
How not
Um,
to write a
how
novel.
not to write a novel. Another one was the first 5 pages. This book really gave me the insight of you must grab your reader immediately. That first book, my very first draft, I started my story in like chapter 3,
Right.
and I had to go
Yes.
back and kind of rewrite. Lots of
Yes.
new authors do that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I'm really bad about was he said, she stood, he blinked, she sat. And so this book was
Mm.
this one is the Understanding Show Don't Tell. And this is a fabulous resource of how someone can get from writing those simple statements, which are considered filtering, to getting into saying more that the ground crunched beneath his feet.
Yeah.
I'm still saying he walked,
Yeah.
but I'm doing it a different way so that the
Right.
reader can visualize it.
Yeah.
And I have an extra copy of this, and I would love to be able to give this to someone who
Okay.
listens to your podcast. If we can
Yeah.
figure out how to make that work,
All
I would
right.
love to do
Well,
that.
understanding, show, not tell.
And yeah, so sure not help. Okay,
Definitely.
another one was the title is kind of funny. Save the Cat writes a novel. There's a couple of these out there. This one is definitely one that you want to read, and it just helps you if you are a pantser,
Mm-hmm.
meaning that you just write by the seat of your pants. This helps you be more of a plotter,
Mm.
planning it out. Now I call myself a plantser,
Okay.
so
You're
I
a hybrid. Yes.
yes, I take my story and the things that I know are I know my characters and I know my world. Those are the two
Yep.
things I always know. And then I also always know what is my character missing spiritually
Okay.
and where do they need to end up spiritually.
Hmm.
And I know that arc of how I'm going to get there. And it sometimes changes
Yeah.
how that happens in between my books. Sometimes that pantser in me
Yeah.
says, "Oh, we got to go a different direction." Another character falls in, something happens that
Yeah.
I hadn't
Yeah.
prepared for, but I still know how I'm getting them to the end. So I find that book helpful. So I have two more.
Okay.
Um, this is an entire series. This is called the Emotional Thesaurus. And this is when you get stuck on a word. Now, I don't know about you, but I get fixated on one word. Like I'll say, oh, it's fabulous. The
Yes.
music was fabulous. The food was fabulous. Everything was fabulous. And I get so fixated on fabulous that I can't get the word out of my mind.
Yeah.
And so this will then help me not only to find a new word, but when I can't express a character, for example, I want a woman to be upset. So I need to understand what her lips are doing. So
Mm.
I think about what kind of upset is she? Is she upset because she's angry? Is she upset because someone made her mad? Or is she really just clenching her jaw? And so I can look up a keyword such as anger,
Hmm.
upset in these books, and it will give me examples
Mm.
of what does her mouth look like? What is her body doing during this point? And it goes back to the show don't tell. Rather than saying she clenched her jaw,
Hmm.
her lips
Yeah.
moved into a thin line and her teeth ached. You know, I
Yeah.
just said she clenched her jaw. And so
Uh-huh.
they go hand in hand together. And I really like that series. The last one is Goal Motivation and Conflict. And this book I have found is probably the most helpful for a brand new author. It doesn't give you as much structure as Save the Cat, which can be a little overwhelming. This book is going to help you recognize when you've already got a story in your head to make sure that you are following some guidelines that are pretty standard, whether you realize it or not when you're
Hmm.
writing, how to get a character from point A to point B and keep your reader's attention. And I
Yeah.
found that these books are super, super helpful. And I refer
Yeah.
to them quite often.
Thank you. You've got a whole library right there.
Yeah.
I'll put those in the show notes so that
Yes,
our audience can utilize them as well. So, but also you write romance.
I
Why
do.
romance?
Well, I started out that first book as just historical fiction. There is very little romance in there. And part of it is because I didn't know how to write romance.
Hmm.
That's a pretty hard thing to do. And when you are writing not just clean, squeaky clean fiction, but Christian fiction in historical time frame, things were a little different.
Yeah.
They didn't immediately kiss after the first date, you
Right.
know? So it is a very challenging thing to be able to make a reader swoon
Yep.
without being verbally sexy
Yeah.
and sharing more than needs to be shared.
Yeah.
And you can do it, but it is a challenge and it takes a lot of practice. So
Yeah.
that growth came from writing more and more and figuring it out and reading.
Yeah.
Um, Pepper Basham is one that is she's a contemporary writer and she
Hmm.
writes a great romance. And so it's fun to be able to pull from other authors who just write really,
Yeah.
really good
Yeah.
romance.
You know what good looks like and sounds like and feels like.
Mm.
But I know that romance has you have particular beats you have to hit along the way that readers, we don't know that we're expecting that, but we are expecting that. And
It,
so you have to fit those, know what they are and
yes,
fit them in. Yeah. So
well, it's not just, it's the Hallmark movie. You
yeah.
know, there's the meet up, there's the meet cute, but then there's the almost kiss.
Mm-hmm.
It almost happens.
Right.
Doorbell rings, the elevator opens. So
Mm-hmm.
it happens every time. And
Yep.
readers, the Hallmark watchers expect it. And if it doesn't happen, it's confusing.
Yes. And we're a
It
little
kind of throws you
disappointed.
out of the story.
We're frustrated. Come
Yeah.
on. Yeah. So interesting. So you really have to know your genre.
Yes.
But I also think that we tend to write what we love to read. At least I do.
Yes.
I don't know why my books got to be so sort of fantastical, supernatural, but then I look back at the things that I loved even as a kid. I'm like, oh, those are the things that I picked up and just sunk into, just because I don't know, they appealed to me, to my sensibilities, the way that
Yes.
I'm wired. So yeah, I love that. Here we go. I say that all the time. I love that. I'm listening back to my own podcast. I'm like, I got to find another phrase, but it's true.
I know.
So
It's fantastic.
how did you hear from God specifically on this new book, A Place to Belong? Because you've written a lot of books, and this one is very specific. How did you hear from God to write this one?
All right. First of all, I love how you worded that. And I will be very honest and say, I have never verbally out loud heard from God.
Hmm.
But when you spend enough time in God's presence,
Yeah.
you recognize his inaudible voice.
Hmm.
There is no question in my mind, first of all, that writing was what God would have me do.
Hmm.
That it's very clear. And because it moved so quickly and so fluidly, and that first book that I didn't even expect to do well, I just said I'm being obedient, did pretty well. And
Hmm.
so, it just was a confirmation from God. To me, that's how I hear his voice.
Okay.
When a character will not let me go, I wrote
Yeah.
book one, and Pete and Singing Bird's story would not let me go, and knew I needed to write book two. When I was writing book three, I had all these ESL students. I was missing them desperately.
Hmm.
And I was thinking of all of their stories. And that is a book with two immigrants and
Hmm.
how they survive after, or actually before, the Civil War. It's pretty challenging. I
Yeah.
wanted to honor my ESL students without
Yep.
giving anything away. It's the conglomeration of their stories. And I
Hmm.
felt like God was very clear in saying, this will help you work through what you're going through. Same thing with all of my other books. There's something about a character, and sometimes it's that I'm working through an issue
Yep.
and I can't figure out an answer. And so if I put that situation into a character and the character has to work it out, a couple things happen. First of
Hmm.
all, I get to see how God works from a bird's eye view.
Yep.
And when in my own life, I can't see that. I don't recognize that that God made me 3 seconds late. Therefore, I was not in an intersection when the semi ran through the stop line.
Right. Yep.
I can't see that doing XYZ is going to be harmful to my body. And therefore, when I'm 80 years old, it's going to make a difference.
Hmm.
You can't see those things. But when you're writing a book, you can.
Yeah.
Not only can I see that, but then I can make a choice of how my character responds. And that's the war within me. If I
Hmm.
choose this direction, this is going to be the result. And I see those consequences really clearly.
Yep.
If I say, yes, these are the consequences that could possibly happen. But in my own life, I can't always do that. But man, in a
Yeah.
book, you can. And so when you say, how did you hear from about God for
Yeah.
this specific story, for a place to belong, that character, Josephine,
Hmm.
first of all, she intrigued me. I had built in a little bit of a mystery in book four of who she was, kind of just left it open ended because I didn't have an answer. I just
Okay.
knew that there was something about her. And when it came to me, oh, this is what it is, I realized that it really didn't matter what the issue was going to be, but it had to be shame. She's
Mm-hmm.
carrying some serious emotional baggage. And I
Mm-hmm.
I realized that because I had a girlfriend that was just struggling to see her self-worth and her value.
Mm-hmm.
And it had nothing to do with being pregnant, but it made my story easier to write. So
Yeah.
I used a basis of where I had been praying, where I had been focusing my intercessory prayers to help someone else, and this story just bloomed
Mm.
from it.
It's beautiful too. I
Thank you.
I find that my books are like really long theological workouts of my own issues.
Yes.
I start out with a
Yes.
big what if of I don't even know what that means, God. How can that
Right.
possibly be you? And how does that work out? And then I spend, 120,000 words figuring it out.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
it's all what's stirring up within me. But yeah, I appreciate that journey as well.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing actually to be able to process
Yes.
sort of aloud and recognize. I like that you get perspective about God's ways when you step back and write about somebody else, and then
Yeah.
recognize, oh, actually, this is all about me, the whole thing actually. But you know what's funny?
Right.
I was writing, and the first book, I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever going to write again. because that one was a real labor of love. It took me like 3 years to do it because I
Yeah.
didn't know anything, figuring it all out. But I heard the Holy Spirit one day said to me, Wendy Joe, you have worlds within you.
Yeah.
You have whole worlds within you. If you will just allow me to sanctify your imagination and then you just
Oh,
trust me with it and let me run with it, you've got whole worlds in you. Like, oh,
yeah.
well, then I've got a lot to explore yet that I've not
Yeah.
tapped into. And it's
Yeah.
such an adventure. It's such an adventure
It,
writing.
it
Writing
truly
to
is.
create with your creator is quite an adventure,
Yeah. And it is. You cannot do this on your own.
right?
I mentioned before you have to know your why, but you
Yeah.
have to also know your baseline. And I am not capable. Wendy Joe, I do not have, first of all, I can't spell. And
Right.
there's a difference between envelop and envelope,
Yes.
and you don't catch it until you listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
it is, it's more than just that you have your team of people that are going to help you. It is truly relying on the Lord because your
Yes.
purpose is to share Christ. That's where I am. That's my
Mm-hmm.
purpose for my
Yeah.
writing. So if my purpose is to share Christ, all those other things are going to come together with my team of people that'll help me. Now, you mentioned something very key in
Yeah.
that, your books are long, 120,000
Yeah.
words. The best thing I have ever done was hire a developmental editor.
Mm-hmm.
Truly, you have to have someone who understands you.
Yeah.
You have to have someone that you know them well enough that they are doing this because they love you and want to help you, not hurt your feelings,
Yeah.
because that is probably the most crushing
It
kind of
is.
edit that you can have.
Yep.
That is where they say your book starts in chapter 3. Just throw out the first 2 chapters and figure out how to weasel that information in if you feel it's really important, or put it in a blog post, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not going in your book.
Yep.
It's where they say, your character, I loved him at the beginning. They totally lost themselves. They are floundering. They are mealy mouthed. They are doing you no favors. You either have to fix them up or you have to kick them out, kill them
Yeah.
off, do
Yeah.
whatever you have to do. And it's hard.
It's
But if
very hard.
you have a relationship with that developmental editor and you can trust what they are doing, your books will be so much stronger.
Yes. Thank God for editors.
Hmm.
I've had several of them along the way now, and each one will say, I don't do what you do, but I
Yeah.
do what I do to make what you do better.
That is such a great way to say that.
Yeah, and they're darn
Absolutely.
good at what they do.
Yes, they
I am
are.
so appreciative of everyone I've had.
Yes.
So you have self-published, but you say that you're independently published. Tell me about this. You have your own imprint. What does that mean? How does that
All
work?
right. Yes. So when I started, I just did what every author who does not work for toward a traditional publication.
Hmm.
That was not my goal. I knew that I needed to do this now, and I really didn't know if I had it in me to go through that process of
Yeah,
traditional
that's a long
publication.
process. Yeah.
Yes, it is. And so I self-published. It's a beautiful thing that you can, if you just want to say you're published, write your book, put it up on in Kindle KDP, and you can say, I am a published author. Now, that's definitely not what you want to do, but
Right.
that is what millions of people
Yeah.
feels like are doing every day. There's all kinds of
Hmm.
content out there. They're writing it with AI and sticking their
Yeah.
name on it and putting it up, and it's considered a
Hmm.
book. I wouldn't recommend that, but I went through the process as cheaply as I could. My goal in the beginning was to try to not spend a lot of money.
Hmm.
So I used my family, my friends as my editors. I got a cover artist I said, I'm probably only doing one book. And she said, I'm not taking any more clients. I'm like, if you could just do
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
just one, in fact, you have at it, do whatever you want. It just has to scream Christian historical fiction. That's all I'm asking. She's like, whatever, I'll do it. And of course, I loved my cover, and it definitely says
Yeah.
Christian historical fiction. There's no man chests or anything on it.
Right. Right.
Um, and so, but being independently published meant for me now, though, I am not only the CEO, I'm the marketing director, I'm the cafeteria person, I'm the chief bottle washer,
Yep.
I'm the floor sweeper,
Hmm.
and I'm the tier wiper.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, It is exhausting.
Yep.
Once that book is written, that's when your job begins. You think
Right.
writing the book was hard? That has nothing to do with how difficult it is. You
Hmm.
can get it out there, but if you want to make any kind of money or get your book sold, you have to do some business. And having a business mindset
Yeah.
is what probably helped me the most. Being in the business world to start with
Hmm.
really did make a difference.
Yeah.
So you also said about imprint. So
Yeah.
as I was writing, I was in this genre, I'm doing what I know, and I'm like, you know what? I need to grow as an author. And I thought I write in what's called third person omniscient. And so that means that my narrator is God and that we are hearing the story through the narrator's eyes, and we hear the person said Joe continued to walk down the road. We'll just use that as an example rather than I
Okay.
walk down
Yeah.
the road. That's
Yeah.
first person.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know what, I'm going to give this a try. So I tried to do it in historical, and I found it to be really hard because I was so used to writing historical in third person.
Hmm.
I did write one book, A Bride for Harley, and I said, okay, at least I know that I can do it. But I think I'm
Yeah.
going to try it in contemporary. So I wrote two books within a multi-author project. They call it a
Yeah.
map. And it was called You Are on the Air. And it's first person contemporary romance. They're just
Hmm.
little short stories. One is about a blind girl with the same eye disease that I have, and then another is a curvy girl story. And I had so much fun writing these. But when you write a book that has something to do with music, and the fact that it was in this multi author project, I learned that if one person in that project made an error and they were sued because they had put the lyrics to a
Oh,
song in the book,
yeah.
we could all be in trouble. And so I
Mm-hmm.
decided at that point, I do want to make this a business. I don't want to just do this as a fun hobby.
Yeah.
So I created an LLC. So I am Heidi Gray McGill Books LLC. That is my imprint, and that is what I publish under.
Excellent. It's good for all of us to hear because once you decide, okay, I'm going to take this seriously,
Yes.
yeah, how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, and it was really easy. I watched a video from Thomas Umstattd.
Hmm.
He is a wonderful Christian podcaster, novel marketing,
Hmm.
I believe is what his podcast is called. And he gave all the instructions on what I needed to do, and the process was very easy. Just register with your state, and
Yep.
it was not
Yeah.
overly expensive, and
Right.
it was worth it.
Yeah. And then you have, well, control over your own property of
Yeah,
what it looks like and what you put into it and what you don't put into it. And you also have a little bit of control over timing of when it gets released and
yes,
yeah, and some of those things that you don't have with traditional publishing. Traditional publishing has its own upsides, but I'm getting to be a fan of indie
yeah,
indie publishing the further down the road I go.
yeah.
I also wanted to ask you, I went on your website and looked at, you have a lovely website. It's easily
Thank you.
accessible. But you have you've entered a lot of contests, it looks like, and a bunch of awards and things that you publish there, which is nice, fun to look at. But how did you go about finding those contests, entering those contests? What's that all about?
Fabulous question. So there are many that are free or cost very little money. You just have to send them a copy of your book.
Mm-hmm.
The ones you want to focus on are ones that you know are established. So anytime you get an email from someone out of the blue that says, your book is great. Would you consider submitting it for an award? That's a red flag. There
Yeah.
is a verse in the Bible that talks about pride cometh before a fall.
Yes.
And that is a really good indicator that you're letting pride hit you,
Mm.
and it's not a good deal. So
Yeah.
don't open the emails. There is a list, and let me get that to you for your show notes,
Okay.
of all of the different places that you can go to submit your books, no matter if it's a epic fantasy, a children's book, something like a C.S. Lewis, a nonfiction, written in Spanish, all the places. There
Yeah.
are so many very good book places that you can submit to. Some will have awards, some will have cash prizes, some will promote your book if you win. It's a lot of things,
Yeah.
but the best ones that I have found have been through the recommendation of other authors.
Mm-hmm.
So when I see that my favorite authors have won an award, I want to know who is it that they are dealing with because
Okay.
I want to run in the same circles.
Yeah.
Michelle Shockley, Michelle Greep, Laura France, Melanie Dobson. All of these ladies are people that I love their storytelling, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to know what it is that where are they writing and where are they doing, I mean, where are they doing their awards?
Yeah.
Now, most of those are traditional writers. There's a
Mm-hmm.
couple independently published ones that I also follow, but there are two that are really, really cleared. ACFW, American Christian Fiction Writers,
Mm-hmm.
is a group that you can join. You can also join a local group if there's one near you, or some of the chapters have Zoom that you can be a part that way.
Mm-hmm.
They have an award that's called the Carroll Award, and I would love to win that someday. I have yet to submit. They also have what's called First Impressions and Genesis Awards. And those are, if you only have your first 5 pages, you can submit those.
Mm.
Those are mostly for individuals who are seeking traditional publishing. And a lot of publishers and editors will read those as judges and they'll
Uh,
say, ooh, this girl's got potential.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then they will come alongside you and say, if you can get this to me, then I will be happy to read it for you. It doesn't mean you
Okay.
won anything,
Yeah.
but it does mean that I'll at least give you the time of day,
Yeah.
which
Right.
is a pretty big deal when you're
Yes.
going toward traditional to even
Yes,
get
it
that
is.
far. Another one, though, is the Blue Ridge Mountains Christian Writers Conference. And
Mm-hmm.
that conference is held in Blue Ridge, South Carolina. I know you've got a couple over there on the East
Yep.
Coast. And those conferences also hold awards ceremonies. So that first book of mine that I was telling you about, Desire of My Heart, even though it was written still with a lot of points of view, it makes for a great audiobook because there are
Mm.
lots of voices and
Okay.
you can really get into it. So that
Yeah.
book actually was a finalist for a SELA award. That's a
Oh,
huge deal to me. That
yeah.
says a lot to not just my writing, but to my narrator.
Yeah.
And that's, I will be submitting again to that one. The Nest Award is another. It's a secular one, but they have an inspirational line.
Hmm.
So you just need to find
Yeah.
what fits you best. I know that there's one called Willa Award, and it is strictly secular westerns.
Hmm.
You know, that Louis L'Amour
Oh,
style.
yeah. Yeah.
And so you'll find what you
Yeah.
need if you are looking.
And what is the what benefit have you found from entering those?
Two probably of my biggest benefits are the, I guess you could call them bragging rights. It is definitely that you can say, I am an award-winning author.
Yes.
And that's a helpful
Yeah.
thing when you are trying to, in a 50-word bio, to be able to say award-winning
Yeah.
is a very good thing. But second of all, it puts you on an even playing level with those traditional writers. So
Mm.
as an indie writer, I have now won the same award as a traditional
Mm-hmm.
author published by Bethany House or Tyndall.
Yeah.
Those that says something. That
Yeah.
says the quality of my
Yeah.
writing matches what a traditional writer is doing. So to me, it helps cement in my mind that I'm on the right path. I'm doing
Yeah.
the right thing. Things are moving forward.
And it's a credibility, I think gives you credibility with a
Yeah,
broader audience to say, oh, she's an award winning. Hmm, I'll check that
yeah,
out. And I
yeah.
see that you put it on some of your books on the covers. You
On
can put
on
in
my
like,
website, yes, I
yeah.
did put them
Okay.
on, but on the actual book, I have
They're
not.
not.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. That was interesting to look at. Also, I've I've been sort of stalking you
I love that.
because I don't know you at all. So I
I know
gotta get to know
exactly.
this woman before I sit down and chat with her. But I noticed that you have audiobooks, but you have like free audiobooks on your YouTube channel. What is that
Yes.
all about?
I'm so excited that you asked me this. Okay, I don't know if you know Misty M. Beller. She
Mm-mm.
is a historical fiction writer. She's one of the top in Christian fiction. She's been writing, I think, since 2012 or 13, somewhere
Okay.
around that point. She probably has 40 or 50 books at this point. She has mentored me and given me some fabulous information. So, when you publish to Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
If you are exclusive to them, that means
Yeah.
you can put your ebook in Kindle Unlimited. And
Yeah.
that's where I get a lot of my pages read. And I get paid for
Yes.
every page read. So just to your listener, just like you would tip your server at the restaurant, please scroll all the way to the end of the book so that you can tip them for those pages, even if you didn't read them, because I
Right.
get paid for every page
Every
read.
page. Right.
Yes. It's not much, but it is something.
Yep.
And so if I have my paperbacks and I sell them on other platforms because that paperbacks are not exclusive to Kindle,
Right.
I'm not competing. Those books aren't competing. I'm reaching other readers that I would not normally reach.
Mm-hmm.
So when I put my audiobook up, I put it up on what used to be called Findaway. Now it's called
Yes.
In Audio. Rather than
Yep.
being exclusive to Amazon, I put it up. So now my audiobooks are on Hoopla and Libby through your library system and Overdrive, Spotify,
Yeah. All
Apple,
over the place. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
all the places. That's not competing with each other.
Right.
I have people who only use Kobo,
Yep.
and that is where they read my book. I
Yep.
have people that are still only going to go to Audible.
Yep.
They have a subscription. That's where they're going to read my book. So YouTube, giving
Mm-hmm.
it free is not a competition because I am monetized on YouTube. And so the watch hours that I get pay me actually more than what I get from all those other combined ebook sales.
Really?
And my reach is further. Now, I did not believe this until I started to get some comments.
Yeah.
YouTube has this thing where it shows you where the people are from.
Yeah.
China, Nigeria, India, it lists them
Mm-hmm.
all, and there's a lot of people. But then I started getting comments from people saying, I just want you to know I'm from Nigeria. I'm a truck driver. I listen to your books. It is so fabulous. Thank you for providing Christian content. South Africa, the same thing. It is so nice to find a Christian and clean book that I can play in the
Yeah.
car while my kids are listening and I don't have to worry about language or sex.
Mm-hmm.
These people are telling me where they're from now. And so I'm recognizing I have a new, huge
Mm.
mission field that I would have never reached had I not done this for free on YouTube. And so it's been a fun journey to see that. And the trust factor of me getting it out there and doing it was tough,
Yeah.
but it has paid off.
Oh, that's wonderful. Because I have my books. I do my own audiobooks, right?
Yes,
My little studio right here, I do them. And I noticed right away that I'm not going to go exclusive. I do have Kindle Unlimited for my ebooks, but
yes,
I'm not going to go exclusive with audiobooks because so many people don't want to use Audible.
right,
A lot of people are, I know they're not like anti, well, some of them are, but
right.
but I also I want them to be available in libraries. I want people to be able
Yes.
to get them for free. And I grew up a big fan of libraries, and so I want to support that
Yeah.
whole system. So, but I've not put them up on YouTube yet. So I was interested to hear how that all
Yes,
worked.
yes, that's a whole talk on its own. Well,
Yes,
you
it is.
mentioned something else, and for a new author, being a part of Kindle Unlimited and exclusive to Kindle is helpful because
Yeah.
people are more willing to take a chance on your book because if they read the first 5 pages and they don't like it, they return it. It doesn't
Yep.
do them any harm. They haven't
Yep.
lost any money.
Yep.
And so it is helpful, but I still find that there are just some people who really want to read and they'll binge read. And now that I have 10, yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they will binge read through the entire series.
Yeah.
And that is very helpful. Now, I
Yes.
did one other thing in that because your paperbacks do not have to be exclusive. I
Yeah.
opened my own storefront because there are people who are very anti-Amazon. They
Yep.
do not want to
Yep.
purchase anything from Amazon. So they do have the option to come and purchase my ebook, not my ebooks, my audiobooks and my
Paperbacks.
paperbacks from my storefront.
And that's through your website.
Yes.
Yeah. So your website, so gosh, these hours flying right on by. So
Oh
your
my goodness.
website is Heidi Gray McGill, and it's MacGill.
MC,
MC,
MCG. Yep.
MCG, sorry. That's my
You're okay.
bad. MCGIL. And that's where they can find all your books.
Yes.
And you have a beautiful blog that you do as
Thank
well.
you.
Can we
Yeah.
find you on social media anywhere? Or?
Absolutely. I am. YouTube, of course, is one place that you'll find me, but I'm on Facebook and Instagram, on X. You'll find everything at author Heidi Gray McGill. Once you hit that, verified on Google. So once you hit Heidi Gray McGill, you will find all my sites.
We'll find you.
You'll
We'll
find
find you,
me.
Heidi. It's been so great. It's been so great getting to know you. And you have another book I noticed on your website that's coming out soon. Uh, is
So
that
A
true?
Place to Belong is comes out November the 18th, and then
Yes.
I am still writing book
Ah,
6, Keeper of My Heart, that comes out April the 7th of
okay.
next year. That is nose to the grindstone for me right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that. I'm like, well, this woman is just keeps cranking them on
You
out.
got to keep going. You can't, there's no break.
This- I know. Isn't that crazy? All right. Let's see. Let's wind up with this. If you had to give advice to a new author just starting out, what would it be?
I'm going to go back to know your purpose, know your
Mm,
why. Honestly, it does not matter what you're writing. If you are writing a children's book, why are you writing it? You have to know, because someone is going to be ugly and write a review that just will destroy you. And
right.
you have to be able to slough it off, or don't read your reviews, but
Yep.
you have to be able to let it go because you know your why was to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I had my very first 1-star review
Mm.
was a great book, but the wink was a bit much ad nauseum. And I
Oh.
thought, I am not even going to get upset over this. That I'm just going to pray for that person.
Moving right along.
Moving right
Yes.
along is right,
Yes.
because I knew that I was hitting that story. The wink is very important for that person who does not know how to express themselves before God, that there's still more ways. God sees
Hmm.
everything. He knows everything. And even if it's just a wink, God understands.
Yeah. Beautiful. So know your why
Know your why.
because it's a long journey and
Mm,
you gotta be grounded in the why. I
yeah.
appreciate that very much. All right, folks. I'm going to wind this up. A Place to Belong is the name of the novella. It comes out live November
18th.
18th. Okay, so coming up real soon. But there's a lot of books that are already out there. So you
Yes.
could go back and get yourself well established in Heidi's stuff before you get to A Place to Belong so you would know where Josephine comes from. That's
Yes.
my recommendation. And then please leave her some reviews, some
Yeah.
wonderful reviews.
Yes.
It's very, very helpful to authors. Anything else you want to add before we close?
Wendy Jo, I just really appreciate you not only taking the time to speak with me, but that you are doing this as your why, your ministry to serve other authors. There is a contact form on my website. If someone has a question for me, I would love to be able to help them through the process and pay it forward. Other people did it for me, and I know that it is a journey, and I love to encourage other authors.
Yeah, absolutely. So look Heidi up on her website if you want to get in contact with her. She is a wealth of resource and a beautiful soul on top of
Thank you.
that. So thanks, guys, for listening. As always, I love and appreciate you. Blessings and peace. Shalom, shalom.